If you ask a marketer, they'll tell you marketing is the act of matching your product with somebody who already wanted something just like your product. They'll be thrilled to be informed about your product because it's exactly what they needed. If you ask any normal person, they'll say marketing is annoying as hell. The thing about marketing is that just informing people that something exists won't always make them want to buy it. If you tell me there's a new video game and in it you play as an extremely small dog befriending extremely large dogs by climbing on their backs like Shadow of the Colossus, I'll be like, hell yeah, where do I sign up for this? But if you tell me Kleenex is a brand of toilet paper, I'll be like, okay, I'll just buy whatever is the cheapest toilet paper. I don't care whose toilet paper I buy. Hence enters the shitty part of marketing. It isn't attempting to correctly inform you. Marketing isn't like a science textbook or something where it dryly tells you the facts that you need to make an informed decision and then lets you make up your own opinion. Most marketing is actually attempting to subvert this process. I'm tempted to compare marketing to misinformation because the things that marketing tells us are often untrue or misleading and meant to make us buy. The truth is that the closest cousin of marketing is disinformation. Advertising is intentionally designed to target our biases and shortcuts so that we do not think straight. The goal of advertising, whether it admits it or not, is to intentionally mislead you. Now you might be thinking, Elise, that's a bit extreme. Ads can be truthful. The problem is that it's not a matter of truth or untruth. It's a matter of trying to find a way around our ability to make rational decisions. Let's say there's a political candidate called X. You get told candidate X is corrupt, and if they get elected, they'll get away with their corruption. You might not want to vote for that candidate. However, if the truth is they weren't actually corrupt, you were lied to and had your decision altered by misinformation. Now let's say, instead of being told candidate X is corrupt, you get told that they hate puppies, and you see a photo of them glaring at a puppy. You then dislike candidate X more because it's pretty crap to not like puppies. When it comes time to vote, you remember you don't like candidate X all that much, so you vote for their opponent. The thing is, whether or not they don't like puppies, you have bypassed thinking about what would be best for this elected office or thinking about any rational considerations and moved on to emotional decision making. Candidate X never put up any anti-puppy legislation or personally hurt any dogs. Instead, you were led to believe that they hated dogs, and that allowed your emotions to control a decision that should have been rationally considered. You may or may not have been lied to, but you had your decision altered by a kind of disinformation, emotionally charged, irrelevant information. Emotional disinformation is when a group puts out misinformation that is intended to short-circuit your logical reasoning and make you jump to emotional conclusions. Most often, this is done by making up something that, if true, would make you feel disgust or another strong emotion towards the target. Since the claim is so emotionally strong, most people won't actually check if it's true. Advertising is basically an attempt to do the reverse of this. When you see people partying and being happy with their product, they're trying to associate happiness with their product so strongly that you don't stop to think logically about whether buying it or not is the right decision. Let's take the obvious example of Coca-Cola. Here's a Coca-Cola commercial where people are happy. Wow, I'm convinced. Even if this ad doesn't superficially convince you of Coca-Cola being a good time-making machine, the aim is to subconsciously associate these things in your head. To this day, if you say the burgers are better at, I can complete that sentence for you, even though I don't actually like their burgers and think that the meat is kinda suspicious. Even further than that, if you show me this dog rolling in super nice, soft toilet paper, I have the same emotional reaction I did as when I first saw this when I was like 4 or something. That dog looks very soft, and I bet that toilet paper is soft too. None of what I just said brings up any of the logical considerations of engaging with these products. Coca-Cola is actually bad for you. I used to drink fizzy drink every day, so believe me when I say that I love it, even the terrible flavors. But it's so sugary and easy to drink that it's easy to drink more than you need, which is none of it. It hurts your liver and shortens your life. Drinking it is, strictly speaking, a bad idea, and I shouldn't be thinking about whether it's going to make me a good time. I should be thinking about whether I want to drink the tasty juice or be healthy. Let's take one more example. This random orange juice ad I found. This ad constructs the idea that orange juice is natural and healthy and wholesome. The only problem is, orange juice is basically just Coca-Cola. Like, there's no caffeine, which is nice, I guess, but they're both just sugary drinks. The naturalness the advertisement constructed is completely irrelevant to whether I should drink it or not. On a fundamental level, most advertising works to subvert your logical thinking and get to your emotional thinking. Our brain has an enormous amount of information to sort through on a daily basis, and most of it just isn't that deep. It wants to find the most efficient way of dealing with all this information, so it uses these mental shortcuts that we call heuristics as a way of determining what is important, what isn't, and what we should do with it all. Heuristics are what we use for basically anything we don't choose to scrutinize, and they tend to be emotionally biased. A lot of the time, this is fine. You know, if you see a ball on the ground and you're trying to decide whether to kick it or not, the answer is, who cares? It makes no difference. You shouldn't think about this too much, or you'll end up exhausted. However, we live in a world that constantly overloads us with information that is wrong in complicated ways. Advertising and other sorts of adversarial information want us to see them like the ball. It doesn't matter what we think. If we think that, it's easy for them to take the short, emotional route through our brain and avoid serious consideration. We are flooded with advertising. Billboards, internet, TV, radio. I avoid most radio, don't watch TV, use ad blocker, and I still feel like I run into too many goddamn ads. And the reason is that now, ads are everywhere. Sponsored content and brand accounts are the new normal. As I mentioned before, these ads have stuck with me, accumulated in my head, and refuse to dislodge. What it adds up to is psychic garbage. I get an unbelievable amount of unimportant information every day, most of it not intended to cause me harm. But advertising, I would argue, is meant to cause a kind of harm. It is intended to stop my brain from working to protect me, to get around my ability to make my own decisions. Advertising is antagonistic. You cute little Kleenex propagandist. Now I want to go back to what I said earlier about marketing. When you make something, you kinda have to tell people it exists. You might have seen this thumbnail on YouTube, or seen this tweet that's linking to the video. It's the same with any creative or practical project that you make. You have to let people know or they won't come. I don't feel the same kind of antipathy towards this kind of marketing. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with saying, hey, I made a movie, you should come see it, here's what it'll be like. Make your own decision. This might still be useless information to me, but it isn't attempting to subvert my rational decision making. This kind of marketing is mostly used by smaller companies or indie teams. If your marketing budget is zero, manipulating people into buying is a lot more to ask than just informing them that it exists. Most large companies don't work this way though, and there are 3 reasons I would attribute that to. One is that companies exist to increase profit forever. They don't just need to make money, they need to make more money than last time. Even more money than that. All the money. They can't do that by honestly informing people. Eventually, you're gonna run out of people who want to buy toilet paper. A second reason is that advertising is a race to the bottom. Advertising cannot stay at a consistent level, because consistent means it doesn't stand out. You have to stand out in the consumer's mind. That means going bigger, louder, more annoying, surprising, controversial, socially conscious, sexy, anything, as long as it stays in their minds. You can see this somewhat when looking at ad reads from the 1940s, which read kind of dry to us now, but I think you can see it even more easily in some of the most blatant and terrible examples. Things like intentional controversies manufactured by companies, the terrible marketing stunts by people like EA. They have to get more extreme to stand out. The third reason is that emotional advertising works better than straightforward advertising. There's a truism in marketing that basically means don't sell the product, sell the experience. Essentially, rather than saying your thing tastes good, say why it tasting good matters to the consumer. Most people will readily ignore advertising that doesn't emotionally connect to them. You've probably done that before. You've seen a tweet saying, come watch my YouTube video, and you've been like, nah, that sounds boring. So you decide it's not worth your time and move on. But if you can get someone emotionally interested, whether that be happy, sad, angry, fearful, you're more likely to get them to engage. So we have ads that intentionally enrage or show you cute or happy things to try and make you emotionally engage with the advertising. The fourth reason is pretty obvious. Companies don't want you to buy a sufficient amount of their product. Like, if you buy an iPhone and then you're good for the next 10 years, that doesn't help Apple. What helps them is if you buy every iPhone because you feel like you have to buy them and the new one's better, so you need it. And it helps them even more if you buy all their products, buy all the accessories, buy more, buy in excess, and keep wanting and buying more things. Leaving aside the environmental impact of consuming more things just because you can, there's a level of emotional manipulation here. When companies want to sell a product that people don't inherently need, they try to create an emotional need for people to have it. I have to stay up to date and trendy, so I need new clothes or I'll feel insecure. I need to show my girlfriend I love her, so I'll buy her the most expensive diamond ring. I want to buy concealer because the makeup company tells me that I'll look bad if I don't hide all of the little dots on my face. This is worse than psychic garbage just junking up our brains, in my opinion. This is more like a form of harm that companies are allowed to perpetuate by law, and it should probably be a crime. It's frankly inhuman to try and make another human being unhappy so that you can sell them something that will fix a problem that you've told them that they have. Especially because that insecurity that you exploited won't necessarily be fixed by the product, and so they'll just go on carrying this wound throughout their entire life. It's an adversarial relationship where you try to resist and they try to fill your brain with garbage. Not all advertising tells the truth in the first place. In Australia, this is tightly regulated, but in a lot of places, Australia included, there are essentially no rules saying that politicians aren't allowed to lie. If you're making a political claim, you can just say anything. But what does it matter if you can't lie directly about a product's good points if you just don't talk about the bad ones? Nobody would want to talk about the bad things in their advertising, so advertising gives you incomplete information, but still tries to influence your decisions. And beyond that, what does it matter if you can't lie on TV if you can just lie on the internet instead? Plenty of Australians take sketchy health advice online, or listen to crazy conspiracy theories perpetuated on Facebook, and television rules are completely inadequate to deal with that. When you add up the density and omnipresence of advertising, the race to become more shocking and notable, the aim to influence your decisions without you noticing, and the sometimes choice to psychically damage people in order to make them want your product, what do you have? Psychic garbage. Absolute crap being thrown at us every second of every day. So with all that said, what can we do about it? Well, short of major overhauls to advertising laws, the best thing we can do is pay attention. Next time you see an ad or a promotional video or a sponsored piece of content, ask yourself, what aren't they telling me about? What don't they want me to think about? Challenge yourself to think about advertising critically, to reject its message of buying more things, and instead, think about what you want and need on your own terms. It's okay to want things, but advertising is designed to make us avoid thinking about what we really want and hurt us so that we want more things. I do think we should all advocate for changes to advertising laws, but I'm not an expert on the subject and I don't know what the right laws would be necessarily. I'd want to talk to mental health professionals and scientists as to what the right moves would be. My first thought would be to greatly diminish the power of corporations overall. Corporations wield an outsized amount of power in our world, partially due to Citizens United in the US, which ruled that corporations spending money is protected free speech and they can just bribe politicians with unlimited amounts of money, and that's fine, apparently. Politicians on both sides of politics have the same views on certain industries in some countries because those industries pay both sides. If we can dismantle the power of corporations, we'll be a step closer towards dismantling the power that advertising holds over our lives. And if we dismantle their power enough, I won't have to yell at this small dog. Please don't make me yell at the dog. Advertising is meant to get into your head, to latch on and accumulate inside it. It's meant to infect your decision-making processes and your ability to make your own decisions. And that, my friends, belongs on the trash heap.